So I'm obviously going to talk to you about Manoah and Blue Jays and all this stuff, but okay. I know you're aware of this, but I don't think really anybody else is. So in the last month, Shohei Ohtani, I'm sure you're aware, right?
We'll see. I don't know. I mean, you could say a million different Shohei Ohtani things that are absurd.
I'm about to. He hit 394. He led the majors in on base with 492. He led in slugging percentage, 952. So that's an OPS of 1444 for those that can add. I'm not. I'm
no one
like,
in this room.
Everybody looked around. Everybody looked around like, yeah, you? No.
Sounds right. Yeah.
15 bombs. 15. By the way, that's more than Vladdy has all year. He hit his 13th yesterday. Those two guys were fighting for an MVP a couple of years ago. 15 bombs in a month, 29 RBI, 25 extra base hits, 99 total bags. It keeps going because, yeah, he also pitches. I don't know if you guys heard about that. He hits and he throws.
No way.
Yeah, I know. He threw 30 1/3 with a 3.26 ERA, 37 strikeouts, and his opponent's line was 228, 302, 368. So I looked at that this morning and I went, nobody cares.
No.
Which is insane because that is genuinely one of the greatest months in the history of any sport that any athlete has ever put together, and nobody cares. And so my question to you is, what would Shohei Ohtani have to do for people to take notice? I know baseball is a local sport, hockey's a local sport, NBA is a little bit more national, football obviously completely national. But is there anything Shohei Ohtani could do where the casual viewer is going to go, you know what, I actually sort of want to watch an Angels game tonight, but they're not playing my team?
Cure cancer.
I was going to say, kill someone.
Simultaneously, like, hold political office in Japan.
No, I don't think that'll do it. I don't
walk
think that.
On the moon.
That's
go
been
to
done.
Mars.
Yeah, Mars, yeah. Moon.
The moon's always.
Every millionaire is about to walk on the moon. They're going. The moon is so boring that guys just died in a submarine because they were like, everybody goes up there. We got to go see the Titanic wreckage.
He's the most underappreciated athlete of our time. He's Brady, he's McDavid, he's all these guys, right? So, but our brains just don't comprehend it. Like, even comparing him to Babe Ruth is absurd. Like, Babe Ruth never did this.
Babe Ruth's way cooler, though.
Why?
Yeah, because he was a man of the evening.
Shohei is not. That's true.
Yeah, that's what I mean. I've seen the Babe Ruth movie from the 90s. It's pretty cool.
I don't think you can be Shohei if you're a man of the evening.
No.
It's hard.
Not in this day and age,
Yeah.
no. Back then, you could be. Babe Ruth, you could just be some like school dropout bad kid rolling around who like probably chucked rocks at other kids, and they were like, "You throw the rocks the fastest." He was like, "Yeah, we should turn this into something." And
throw the rocks.
Yeah, that's it. You're the best bully. We should give you a bat.
Yeah,
that was it.
Shohei's got to go home after a game and eat a very precise amount of protein and carbohydrates and get a very precise amount of sleep. And like it takes a lot to do what he's doing right now. So someday we'll appreciate it. Like someday we'll look back on it and be like, we watched that guy. We saw him.
But we didn't. And that's the thing. People are going to go, Granddad, what was it like watching Shohei Ohtani? You're going to be like, it was crazy. He was pretty tall. And then there was a thing, he did a World Baseball Classic thing. And then, well, here's the other part of this. He's screwed because Mike Trout, for those of you at home that don't know what's going on with the Angels, because guess what? Of course you don't. It's fine. This is not a shaming time. He just broke a bone in his hand. The hamate.
The hamate.
Not the good one. The bad bone to break in your hand.
It's like 7-8 weeks.
Yeah, it's bad. And then yesterday, Ohtani left with a blister and Rendon left. And that's a team that the Jays are fighting in wild card position for. You got to think that they could fall out of the race here pretty quickly without those guys. They're kind of built around those three dudes. That's their thing.
It helps having two absolute generational talents on your roster. Like two of the best players we've ever witnessed.
Yeah, it does.
Like to minimize Trout, like that's what's so crazy about
ruined his career.
About what Ohtani's doing though, right? Is that he's put Michael Trout into a shadow.
That's sure he's a Michael Trout?
That's crazy.
I'm not. Just a Mike.
I'm honestly not, but I went there.
Yeah,
I took a leap.
I've never heard that.
But that's how crazy what Ohtani is doing is that nobody talks about the surefire first ballot Hall of Famer who's also on his team. So, it'll be interesting to see what the Angels do. I don't know how you even figure out a trade value, like a return for Shohei. We saw Soto get traded.
I was going to say, that's
be somewhere around there.
Yeah.
Like this offseason, if I'm any team in baseball, but it's got to be a team with a payroll, I'm offering Shohei the most ridiculous contract structures of all time. 2 years, 120 million. You know, I'm offering him just crazy stuff. Right? Because I anything short-term, enormous value, I don't know how you feel about the longevity of what Shohei's doing.
Who cares?
There's no comparable, right?
Yep.
And everything in baseball is models, is comps, is systems, is analytics. And there's no one you can look back on and say, well, this is how this looks when this guy's 34, 35, because this guy's never existed before. So you can't even figure out a value on an 8, 9, 10-year deal. It's just like, the time is now. Give him 3 years, $180 million. Like, dude, like something crazy. He's so valuable. He's the most valuable player in the game.
Yeah. I just find it especially interesting for the Blue Jays because it is local, right? Like they are in the wild card picture for the Jays. And I think that we're now All-Star break, considering the season they're having, this is about when I'm going to start a little bit scoreboard watching. I know it's probably a bit too early, but it's happening enough where I'm paying attention to the teams. And I think this happened a little bit more with the Red Sox series, right? Because Red Sox sweep the Blue Jays, and I'm like, wait, how close are these guys? Yeah. Oh, turns out very, even though their season has been basically an unmitigated disaster. And coming into the series against the Blue Jays, all of their writers and commentators were going, this team is the worst offense. And I went, well, it's funny you should say that because welcome to our team here. This is the other one. Okay, so yeah,
this is the year to do it, though, because things are so muddled, or especially around that cluster of the standings,
well,
right?
This is what I was going to say is every team should be in on Shohei. That's the cool thing about him at the deadline is there's no just one contender that's looking to add him. If you're any team, you should be offering a massive trade package if you're willing to give him the money. I'm guessing that if he's going to leave, he's only going to re-sign or want to sign with a team that is going to be competitive. Because the one benefit of playing with Mike Trout is he just looks at him like Varsity Blues. I don't want your laugh. That's an old reference, but I had to do it. It's just, oh, everyone talks about you as the greatest player in the game until the next guy comes along and is good. And then we look back at your resume and go, oh, right, he played in one playoff game in his rookie season. Not great.
You need an owner who's willing to just go nuts because, like, I haven't found anybody in the game who says Shohei Ohtani is going to sign anywhere but with the LA Dodgers next year.
I hate that because then he's staying out west and I never see him again. I've made this case and I people hate it, but I really do feel this way. I'd rather Shohei be a New York Yankee or a Boston Red Sox and play in the division and be on the East Coast where he gets to show up at your ballpark and then you actually get to enjoy him. Because that's what I'm saying. These numbers are so insane. And I feel like it's Barry Bonds or it's Ken Griffey where everybody on the Eastern time zone goes, oh, that must be cool what's going on out there for you guys. That's really neat. You got a really good baseball player, huh?
He'd be a great Yankee. Honestly,
he would be a great
him
Yankee.
In pinstripes. He'd look good. First of all, second of all, he goes from one of like the worst run organizations to one of the best. Yeah. So he goes from a team that like doesn't put any like they don't care about analytics, they don't care about information about helping guys get better. To New York, where like they started this analytics movement, where they're gonna give him the pitch tips. They're gonna. Can you imagine him knowing what's coming? Right, like he's gonna get so much better on the pitching side, and with his recovery, he's gonna have better resources. He'd be a great Yankee.
Okay, so. Speaking of the...
Just for all the Jays fans out there.
Yeah.
And they can afford them, too.
I don't know. If you're a Jays fan right now, wouldn't it be nice to see a really sweet baseball player? That would be cool. I wouldn't care who he played for. Just let me go see that guy. Yesterday they avoid disaster, which is great. Vladdy comes through, hits a bomb, his 13th of the year. Now has more than Dalton Varsho, who has an OPS plus that's like 80 and OPS of, I think, 670 something. So, yeah, he's got as many home runs as that guy now. So good for Vladdy.
669.
669 for Dalton Varsho?
OPS,
Yeah,
Dalton
good trade.
Varsho.
It was a great trade. Everyone who was involved in that trade should be in prison, like, for real. And including Chris Black, who told every single Blue Jays fan that this was the greatest trade that ever materialized for this organization. So they win. Nice. But the big news is Manoah. So I do want to start there. Why is it happening so fast? This one start in Double-A, and it was rainy, and it was weird, and he still walked 3 guys. I don't know. It was a week later after he got lit up in the Florida Complex League. What are you hearing in terms of the timeline?
Why is it fast? I would throw that back to you.
I guess.
Why would you say this is fast?
Because I thought that when they sent him down there, that it was, we really don't know what's going on with this guy outside of it's a lot of things. that it could be a mechanical issue, that it could be a pitch clock issue, that it could be some mental stuff where he's lost a bit of his confidence. And it could be, some just body stuff where we want him to be in a little bit better shape. BNS made a good point about how he doesn't buy that theory as much because he struggled early in baseball games. And if it was something that really had to do with, his weight or his conditioning, that it would probably be something that showed up a little bit later in ball games. But I just look at it as, hey, maybe it's all of these things put together. And so when they sent him down there and they took such drastic measures to not just say, we're sending him down to Double-A, I would have thought that this was something that they were going to be extremely cautious with because he's one of the organization's most important players. Like, how many guys on the team are more important to the Blue Jays' success than Alek Manoah? The thing that makes them special...
Gausman, Bichette, Guerrero, Jansen.
Jansen?
Yeah, he catches everybody.
Jansen.
He's very important. He catches every pitch.
All right. Yeah.
Every pitch that's thrown, dude. Romano, Swanson.
Hard take. No, this is the everyday player versus the pitcher take.
So why is it quick, though? Like, what are we comparing it to?
That's the thing. It just seemed quick because the messaging that I got from everyone was that they were going to take their time and be cautious with this.
It took a month. He took a month. He didn't pitch. He was in the lab for 2 weeks, and then he went and struck out 10 over 5. I don't know what happened before that. I don't even think anybody even remembers what happened before that. I'm talking about the complex league start, right? But
it's not great.
Look, I'm like, he's had a month. Like, what makes it quick? There's no comparable. There's no other defending Cy Young finalist who like fell off a cliff and had to go to the minors for a month that you can point to and say, whoa, that guy came back too fast. We're writing a new script. If Hyun-Jin Ryu came back for this outing, you would say, yeah, that's too fast. That's too quick. Because we've seen hundreds of Tommy John rehabilitations where it's, hey, there's setbacks, there's velo dips, you got to give this time, you got to let this build. With Manoah, there's no comparable. It's never happened before. So who's to say it's too fast?
Okay, but comparable aside, do you think that this was the original plan that he was going to be back this quickly? Do you think they had a plan? Like, what your original read was that he'd be back in a month?
When I was in Miami, whenever the Jays were in Miami, they were talking about Canada Day. Like, they would have had him back sooner. That was in the cards. Like, that was a discussion. So I'm not surprised at all. You're not going to find a softer entry point. You're not going to have a more, like a better outing to build off of, to platform off of into this. Velo was good in his last outing. Slider was better. Not as good as it needs to be, but better. And it makes sense, too, with the All-Star break. You start him on Friday. And so he's going to have the next 2 days of that Tigers series, all of the All-Star break, and then you come back with 3 against Arizona and an off day. So you don't need to throw him right when you come back. So regardless of how this outing goes, he's going to have like 10, 11 days before his next one, whether it's good or whether it's bad.
Yeah.
So if it goes well, great. You go off to the All-Star break, you kind of decompress, throw a couple bullpens, you build off that. If it doesn't go well, okay, we've got 10 days to figure this out and to get him better. I don't know. I'm not as like cautious or conservative about it. Like, he's part of this team. He's a really good pitcher. He's a defending Cy Young finalist.
Yeah, I agree. And again, that's why I think he is one of the most important players on the team. Because to me, I break teams down as, okay, what makes you special, right? What's going to win you a World Series? And for the Blue Jays, I don't think the offense is special. I don't know how anyone's going to make that case. I don't think the bullpen is special. What I think could be special is the starting pitching. But I think that it only gets there if you have 2 aces, which is Gausman and it's Manoah. And those 2 guys pitch brilliantly. And I know it didn't work out for them last year, although it could have been better had they not gone to the bullpen as early with Gausman. Don't need to relive that. But I want to be uber cautious with this guy. I want to make sure that the slider is where you want it to be. I don't want to have him run up. You're right about the timing thing. I do like that it's Detroit and then the break. Like, it's a pretty feeble offense, and then you have more time to work on things. I guess the follow-up to this is, what do you think the major issue was? Because if some of this is, if it's just purely mechanical and they were going, hey, we need you to work on this, and this is how the pitch clock goes, and you need the 2 starts or whatever, and however else he was being trained over that month, then I go, yeah, throw him back in the fire. If he's feeling confident, if Alek Manoah is the Alek Manoah that we've seen throughout his career, where he's basically undeterred by anything, right? The most confident guy ever, the one that calls Garrett Cole the greatest cheater of all time, the guy that barks into other dugouts and basically challenges people nonstop. Basically, 3 times the size Stroman, I would say, right? Triple stroke. If he's that guy, fine. But my concern would be he comes back up and it's this Tigers team that everyone says, hey, they're crappy, go mow them down. And then he shows those same issues. Him during that time down all of a sudden becomes horrible. He's sitting there going, oh, my God, I can't believe this still isn't figured out. Oh, my God, I can't believe this is happening. Anyway, I'm filling way too much here. This is way too long. But yeah, what do you think the major issue was with him then?
So the big issues were fastball command on the arm side and a slider that had less bite and less velo than it's had in the past. Sounds like the fastball is back, at least from a velo standpoint. 95, his final pitch at AA. So like the velo's there. If he can command that arm side, great. The slider still needs work from what I've been told. I'm very interested to see the pitch data on it when he is pitching in Detroit and to see what kind of horizontal movement is on it. What leads to that lack of command, that slider is not biting as much. It's repeatability of your delivery. It's maintaining your mechanics. Can that be related to body composition? Yes. Do we know for a fact that it is? No. Is Alek Manoah going to rework his strength and his mobility and his conditioning in a month? No. Like, these are off-season things. But right now, as the Blue Jays are constituted, you have 4 starters, and you have had 4 starters for a month. And you have Kevin Gausman regularly pitching on 4 days rest. Jose Barrios is skipping bullpens. Chris Bassett is pitching hurt. It's a problem. You need to back these guys off, and not just once. You need to back them off over the All-Star break, coming out of the All-Star break. You need to give them 3 weeks to really recover, really get back to where they are, get back onto their routines. Guys haven't been working between their outings in the ways that they need to be their best. And so you've got 10 weeks left in this season, and you want to take this opportunity to platform your rotation, which, to your point, is the special part of this team and what could help you win in the playoffs, to platform it through the rest of the year, get it to October healthy and effective so you can go out and try to win some games.
So, again, this is sort of what scares me a bit, though, is when I say, is it rushed? And you're like, hey, there's no template. So I go, that's fine. Yeah. That's a great point. I don't know. But it just, to me, from the outside, that feels like a part of it. And if I'm talking about Alek Manoah, your Cy Young runner-up from a year ago, I don't want any part of it to be the fact that you didn't bolster the starting rotation with enough depth. And so you're kind of forced to bring him up here. Those other factors you mentioned, they're very important. And the thing you didn't say is that they're 1-2 in those bullpen games, right? And they can't be affording to give away games anymore. They're out of a wild card spot as it is.
And your bullpen looks better when Trevor Richards is available in the 7th.
Yes, exactly.
He didn't pitch the first.
No, there's no doubt about it.
And you're not holding him back because, we need this guy to start in 2 days.
Yeah. I guess that's my issue. My issue is how much of this has to do with the domino effect of removing him from the starting rotation as there been.
That's
versus how much of it is, hey, this guy's actually ready. The velo's up. He's feeling confident. We're ready to roll. Do you know at all how he's feeling about this personally, about anything you've heard over the last month?
I bet you he feels great because he just spent a month off the big league roster. So he's no longer going to be a Super 2 player this year. This is a decision that's literally cost Alek Manoah millions of dollars, demoting him for a month. He's not going to be Super 2. So he's not going to go through arbitration 4 times. He's going to go through 3 times. And if you want to see what the difference in that is, look at what Vladimir Guerrero Jr. is going to earn in his arbitration years and look at what Bo Bichette's going to earn. Because those 2 guys came up the same year, but Vlad was a Super 2 and Bo was not because he came up later. And there's a very big discrepancy in what they are earning. So this has cost Alek Manoah money. You are buying some goodwill with him by bringing him back now, getting him back on big league pay, big league service, back on the charter, all the perks, all those things. And you're also showing confidence in him. You're showing confidence in the organization for the work that they have done with him and showing confidence in the athletes that, hey, you went out and you did what we wanted you to do. You went to AA. You dominated. We feel like you're ready. You're a big leaguer. You're going to help us win. You're back. Let's go.
I hope so. I hope so.
Could go poorly, right? But it could go well. We don't know. That's sports.
But
it's the big leagues, right?
No, it is.
We can't be this conservative and cautious and have kid gloves with everybody.
I agree.
It's never going to be perfect. You're never going to find your perfect scenario where it's the most soft entry point. He's coming off the best outing and everything's working. Everything is perfect. He's going to be beat up. He's going to get rocked again this year. Every pitcher gets rocked. Kevin Gausman gets rocked. He's going to have bad outings again over the back half of the year.
It just can't be the next one, though, man.
Why not?
I don't know. The optics of that are horrific. If you bring him up and he can't find the plate again, it's like that Orioles start, and he's getting absolutely tattooed. The velocity dips down. The slider looks horrible. My question is, at that point, how do you trust? If you're him, how do you trust a plan for you? You're saying, okay, wait. So you just cost me those millions of dollars, and now I'm not fixed. And now we're going into an all-star break, like I mentioned, where all I have is time on my hands. I know I'm doing the doomsday scenario here, and I actually do feel like this is probably going to work out. You remember the Royals start he had? I think it was the second one, where he didn't pitch particularly well, but the team was just terrible in front of him. And so he managed to get through it. I think he went 5 or 6, and he did fairly well. He won the game. I'm anticipating something like this, where he's not going to come out and look dominant and be nasty and do all that stuff. Again, I think that it's the two-part factor, which is, could you have figured out a better way? And is the plan for this guy affected by what the rotation has currently? And yeah, you mentioned it, that maybe it's a small part of it, but that piece is what scares me a little.
If Doomsday plays out and he comes back, he can't find the plate, the slider isn't effective, the fastball command isn't there, he's laboring on the mound, he's kicking at the dirt, his mechanics aren't repeatable, you have such a bigger problem at that point, and one more AA outing or one more AAA outing isn't going to solve that. Isn't going to get him to a place where all those things are fine. It's not like one more minor league outing and all of a sudden the horizontal on the slider is 16 and all of a sudden the fastball command is on the edges and all of a sudden the confidence is there. One more minor league outing isn't going to do that. We're going to find out. I bet you he goes like 5 innings, 3 runs. It's like a totally so-so fine outing. It's not dominant. It's not a blow-up. It's like it's 5 and dive, 3 runs, gives his team a chance to win. You go from there.
Do you know what the life looked like at the Complex League?
Life on the pitches?
Yeah, like, no, sorry. Like, what his life was looking like down there. What was, did you get sort of any
he's
read on the
from
routine?
Florida, so, like, I'm sure he had his support system there. Like, I'm sure I believe it's a fiance now. I'm not sure.
I think it is. Yeah.
I'm sure his fiance was with him. Like, he's comfortable there. Like, that's the environment they wanted him to be in. And then also, he got to spend time in the lab, which is really valuable. You look at Bowden Francis this year, who was throwing 96 when, like, a year ago was throwing 92 and was outrighted off the roster. They put him in the lab at that point, and they hooked him up to all the motion capture and the biomechanical stuff, and they found a movement inefficiency and helped him find his velo. He goes off to Puerto Rico, pitches well in winter ball, comes into spring training, blows the doors off. Now he's a big leaguer. This stuff works. Like, it was a good environment for him to be in. It's no guarantee it's going to work for Alek Manoah, but it was a good place for him to work on things rather than at the big leagues where you don't have those resources and you're trying to compete against the best hitters in the world every 5 days.
So you threw something in there. Chris Bassett, pitching hurt. What has he got? What's going on?
I can't tell you that, but he is.
You can't or you won't?
He is both.
Oh, wow.
But Chris, like he told
Mr.
me
Secrets.
on the
Okay.
last road trip that I was on, and I did this on the broadcast, like it's out there, that like he's been dealing with some physical stuff. It makes sense. He's a veteran pitcher, and he's been, as part of a 4-man rotation, has not had that benefit of an extra day in between starts. And we've seen how much better guys like him, guys like Kevin Gausman, even Jose Barrios are with that extra day. Everyone's better. Every MLB rotation should be a 6-man rotation and will be someday. Japan figured this out a long time ago, and MLB will start figuring it out soon because you just get better results. Like, the pitchers are just more effective. But that's neither here nor there. When it comes to Bassett, like, has
Maybe
been...
they have that when Ryu comes back, if he comes back.
We'll see. It's clock's ticking now, right? He's in games. So like with Bassett, he hasn't been able to work out in between outings the way he's wanted to. He hasn't been able to like throw bullpens. He hasn't been able to work on things. When you throw 7-8 pitches, there's a lot of work that goes into that. And when you don't have like overpowering stuff, like you have to be very fine with your command and very repeatable in your delivery and your mechanics. So I think a lot of that has contributed to some of the issues that we saw from Bassett recently, was being in the 4-man rotation.
One of the stories that's kind of gone by the wayside this year, though, is every year the Jays get killed for the sports science department. Like, keeping guys
By
healthy.
you. Yeah.
Well, yeah.
By you.
Yeah, guess what?
Yeah.
Others too. I'm not the only one.
How many times have you tried to fire every physical therapist, every massage
I'm
therapist?
going to try to fire some other people today with you, which is like the analytics department of the Blue Jays, because I'm just looking at what they think is going on here, or positive regression on guys.
Busy times for the HR department, always.
Yeah. Listen, I would just say that it turns out that moving George Springer to right field has just cured him of his ailments to a certain degree. And yeah, for the most part, they've been pretty healthy other than behind the plate, right? They've had a couple of injuries there. I think Kiermaier got dinged up a bit. Belt had a short stint, but he's 35 years old. And, Yeah, coming off of an injury. I don't think anyone thought he was going to have the Iron Man streak coming out of the season. He got voted in the All-Star game. So, actually, wait, did he get in the All-Star game?
Who built? No.
No, he didn't, right? He was behind
Some
Shohei.
bum.
He
got
was
the
behind some
DH.
guy named Shohei.
Yeah, that's it. His name was linked to All-Star so much. But yeah, I heard yesterday on the broadcast, it's Witt, Bo, Vlad, and Gosman. That's it.
Yeah.
Only 4.
Yeah. And they had up like a finalist for
Belt
every
should
position.
be there. Belt should be there over Vladdy, even though Vladdy's got better numbers. Like it just anyway.
It's a popularity contest, man. It's for the fans.
Yeah,
it's for the kids.
Yeah, it's true.
Right?
Yeah, if you go to an All-Star game, you want to see Vlad Jr. over seeing.
If I'm Brandon Belt, like I want 4 days off.
Of course.
I don't want to go fly to Seattle and do a bunch of media and it's work. I want 4 days of work.
All right.
4 days off. But yeah, incredibly, the catchers and the guys with injury histories are the guys who have been banged up. That makes sense. But yeah, I think the Blue Jays have done a great job with deployment and with managing workloads so that you don't have these injuries.
Yeah. I was going to say, I don't think there's going to be a big story on anything changing, but had those guys been one of the more beat up teams in baseball, I do think that would have, like, that is always a story. They've always had the sports science stuff in terms of what they're actually doing and people questioning it. Anyways, I want to talk about the bats. So let's take a quick break. Let's come back and let's do that. He's got 4 bombs in his last 10 games. And some of those were against a really bad baseball team. So I guess maybe grain of salt.
They're all against pitchers. None of them were against the Tampa Bay Rays first baseman.
Yeah, that's fair.
Right?
Yeah, they're not empty netters.
It's progress.
Yeah. You think something different's happening here?
Honestly, he's doing the same thing. Like,
Yeah.
it's the stuff
That's
that
what I
nerds like me have been pointing to all year of like, hey, this guy hits the ball really hard and he's hitting it in the air more than he was prior. And you look at like the ex-WOBA leaderboards and it's like Shohei, Riley, Trout, Vlad. Like, he's just up. The things that he does lead to results over time. It's a little maddening that it wasn't happening to this point. But he's a game-changing player. Saw that last night. Saw that against the Giants the other week. He can change the game with one swing. He has game-changing power. I mean, it's a slider at the top of the zone that he swings out of his shoes at. He doesn't get all of it. It was like 106 off the bat, and he hits it over the opposite field fence. Like, that guys don't do that. Like, it's just different. He is just different. So this is why, like, everybody is so bullish on Vlad being really, really good in the future because he does stuff like that.
You're not upset at all about the approach this year? Because, like, that bomb made him scrape over an OPS of 800.
And I've done it on the broadcast where it's like, hey, here's the pitches Vlad needs to lay off of. And he's been doing a better job lately of laying off of that cutter away, that slider away. The count matters too, right? It's the 1-0 cutter away or the 0-0 breaking pitch just off, right? Or the 2-seamer in on his hands and 0-0 counts. Like, being willing to enter that like discomfort of being behind in the count and take that strike and understanding that his pitch can come later in the plate appearance. That's a big part of it. Part of it too, like talking to Marcus Semien about this in Texas, like he was like laughing at some of the stuff we were throwing him about Vlad and what he's going through. And he's like, yeah, look, no one's going to throw this guy a pitch to hit. Everyone knows how good he is. And like Joe Kelly knows that if he misses, like he might. Did you see Joe Kelly's reaction?
No, I know. I was
hate
like,
that
stuff
pitch,
all the good hitters.
that swing. Like, that got me. I lost the game on that, really, because Vlad does that stuff.
Sure. It's just the same. It's with Shohei, too. Like, they're not going up there with Shohei saying, groove him one. He won't get this. He won't get out to this. So
and pitchers make mistakes.
Yeah.
And you look at the pitches that Shohei hits 500 feet, they're all mistakes. And his approach gets him to those mistakes. His process gets him to those mistakes.
But that's it, I guess. But then why does Vladdy hit? I shouldn't even say this without really knowing it, but this is anecdotal evidence. And I guess it is slightly supported by the fact that I think he's hit into more double plays than any other player this season in all of baseball. But when you're talking about the hard hit rate, it always seems with Vladdy that his are in the dirt. Like, he's never a warning track guy where it's always, oh, man, another one to the warning track for Vladdy. Oh, he hit another hard ball. It's there. It's always in the dirt.
His launch angle's up this year. I mean, his line drive rate is exceptional. And just the things that he's not Kendrys Morales. You know, he's not that. And he's made, like, I just think that it really is an approach thing, a mindset thing, similar to what Bo Bichette went through last year.
So, yeah, doing too much.
Literally, the calendar turned to September, and Bo Bichette just said, I don't give an F anymore. Like, I don't care. I don't care what you think about me if I wave at sliders.
Stand for?
I don't know. Yeah. I don't know. I heard it. It sounded cool.
Yeah, it did.
Like, I don't care if you think I look silly, foolish. I'm not going to try to be who you want me to be. Like, he just kind of crossed that precipice and had that September that we all remember, and then returned this year is like, oh, he's a superstar. Oh, there's the potential that we all saw. I could see a similar arc for Vladimir Guerrero Jr. It takes different players different amounts of time to find that mindset and to reach that. But even Vlad being a disappointment or slumping is still like a 125, 130 weighted runs created plus player. Like he's still incredible.
Nah, he's still incredible, but this baseball team is built on the idea that you have two super duper stars in the middle of your lineup. And if one of those guys just ends up being, you know, an OPS, what was he last year? 815 or something? 820? It's like...
And you see what it looks like over the last 10 days when the ball's leaving the yard. Those are the swings the Blue Jays weren't getting over the first half.
They need him to be special. They can't just have him be good. Like that's what the success is going to be predicated on. So the bats have obviously been extremely disappointing this season. It's, I would say, the biggest story of the year, unless you say Manoah in terms of what's happened with him and the weirdness of that story. But starting pitchers have spikes up and down. So to me, that's not. I want to go through a couple of these guys, what you think's happening here. Alejandro Kirk, I'm going to go through this month by month. April, March, 805 OPS. Nice.
Wow. Really?
Yeah,
I'm kind of surprised by that. I'm honestly a little surprised by that.
Shocking to me when I saw it. And I went, oh, nice. But it actually only makes the rest of the numbers worse. It's May, 564. June, 615. And yeah, July he's got 7 plate appearances, but they've gone very poorly. He's got a 286 OPS. This guy was supposed to be Mr. Special, Mr. Always Gets on Base, Mr. Gets a Hit. Now he doesn't even do that. And if you even put him on the base, it's not great. It's not exactly
He's not here to run the bases.
He's not here to run the bases, but he is there to get on them. And he's not even doing that. What's changing?
What's his on base for the season? You got it there?
His on base is actually not terrible. It's 330.
So he is getting on base.
Yeah. It's just, well, but again, that's with an April and March where his on base was 418. His on base ever since then has been 286, 289. Like
I bet you that on base is what produced that big OPS early in the season, because he wasn't slugging early in the season either, right?
No.
So I'd imagine that OPS is very fueled by the on base, because the approach.
Listen, he has 1 home run since March.
Yeah, no, it's the power has gone away in a very big way. And I can't tell you why that is, but it's like, it's concerning. Certainly, you would like to see more power from him. You'd like to see more of an opposite field line drive approach, gap to gap. You'd like to see some of those line drives getting, sneaking over walls like we've seen in the past. It's interesting with him. The approach, the high walk rate, low strikeout rate helps keep him very playable through power slumps. And we've seen power dips from him in the past before, typically around times where the workload is ramping up and say Danny Jansen's on the IL and Kirk's being asked to catch a lot. We've definitely seen the power dips with him. But yeah, he has taken a step back in the power department this year, but I would say his numbers for a catcher offensively are still probably above average for a catcher.
I guess it depends on how we do the
what's
OPS
the league
average
OPS plus or weighted runs created plus for a catcher? It's very low.
All I'll say is that as of right now, his OPS plus is the last couple months 73.89. So I don't know how much of that is his defense, but
with his OPS, it wouldn't be any of his defense.
So his OPS
that's purely hitting.
That's purely hitting. So he's been below average. And then,
below league average. Yeah. But what's league average for a catcher?
I don't know.
Right?
I don't have that in front of me. That's a Jobo stat. That's
all right,
what
Joe.
He's here
give me
for.
league average numbers for a catcher.
Here's what I'll say, man.
Because I bet you Alejandro Kirk is either near them or above them.
You gotta be Luke Maley though, essentially, for you to play this many games and he's got 5 extra base hits since March. 5.
So you want to call up Rob Brantley and give him the starts?
I don't want to call up Rob Brantley.
Tyler Heineman to play more?
No. My point here is just simply that I do think that he's an underrated, needed cog. There were moments last year where this guy was DHing and you were saying, hey, this is one of the most important bats in the Blue Jays lineup. Part of the reason why I think they had to think about trading Gabriel Moreno was they went, you know what? We're winning now. We need Danny Jansen, your 3rd most important Blue Jay, as you put it. And so, yeah.
Did I?
Yeah, you did.
I was just naming. That wasn't in order. I was just naming important Blue Jays.
Your 3rd most important Blue Jay, Danny Jansen.
Clip it. Onto social it goes.
Yeah, exactly. It was this guy, too. And I feel like we talk about everyone. We talk about Vladdy. Chapman obviously gets hammered right now. Varsho is the face of this trade. And again, the other day, we see Gurriel clear the bases with a grand slam. And then we see Varsho with the bases loaded yesterday. Big old strikeout from Dalton. Again, just...
Ump didn't help him out.
Sure.
Ump didn't help him.
A lot of umps been conspiring against Dalton Varsho this season. Boy, the real conspiracy. What did he do? The quiet guy on the baseball team who just, runs hard. Seems to be hated by umpires. Anyway, my point here is just I feel like he's flown under the radar in terms of guys who've been discussed in the offensive woes. And every once in a while we do hey, he's really improved as a catcher. His pitch framing is so much better. Oh, he gets down low in the zone. He steals some of those strikes. And I go, hey, that's fine, except for that's not what I ever believed Alejandro Kirk was supposed to be, nor do I really particularly care about his defense. It's fine. It's a nice little bonus. But what I really want is for this guy to be getting on base at an extremely high rate and to be special, not league average amongst catchers, which is weighted down by some of the worst baseball, some of the worst bats in baseball.
Yeah, when Alejandro Kirk is being the guy that we saw at times last year out of the 7 hole in the lineup or wherever he's most consistently hitting, that changes things. Like that lengthens your lineup in a very real way. Mm-hmm. Earlier this year, there was a real issue with rolling over to the left side with Alejandro Kirk, and there were some mechanical things in there with not staying over his back leg, and they made some tweaks and made some adjustments. Ground ball rate kind of declined, which is nice. I think you want to see, like when Alejandro Kirk says best, you see those opposite field liners, right? Because like that's what he can do. He can get his bat so many pitches. His swing is so level and on plane that he can do that. And then he'll just kind of run into some homers when he turns and pulls one over the left field wall. But yeah, I think he deserves credit for the gains he's made defensively. Like defense for catcher is huge. This is massive. You're catching every single pitch.
He's not a stud defensive catcher all of a sudden.
I think that
this is about him getting to be a passable defensive catcher.
A lot of the blocking metrics, a lot of the framing metrics would suggest that he's been very, very good.
Sure. All I'm saying is that this is a guy that when he first started catching, Siddle would come on and go, yeah, this guy's not really a catcher. So that's where the base he was working from. It wasn't, hey, this guy's a spectacular catching prospect and he's working his way up into being a generational catcher. It's, hey, this guy is actually serviceable behind the plate. He's all right back here now. He's not a disaster back here anymore.
And now he's good. Wow,
sure.
A lot of work went into that.
So you think that's good for him? I'm asking you. So right? You will have a theory then as to what the hell is going on with this guy. Because again, I don't care about his defense. It's the most overrated dumb thing to talk about. He's not a special
defense? Overrated?
Yeah, catcher defense is fine.
Catcher defense is huge.
He's not the best defensive catcher on the team. Danny Jansen is. I don't care what the hitting catcher does behind the plate. I want to see him hit. That's why he's here. That's why they traded Gabriel Moreno and not him. They viewed him as a special bat.
I don't know that a deal was there for Kirk, honestly.
You don't think so?
I think the deal that they wanted to make with Varsho was there with Moreno. I don't think it was there with Kirk.
Maybe it's not that deal. I just mean in terms of shopping all 3 catchers, that it ended up being the 2 that they kept during their win now cycle. Had to be part of it going, hey, remember, what month was it last year? June?
When what?
When Kirk had that just unbelievable month stretch.
Yeah, I remember.
Where it was, this guy might be the best hitting catcher in all baseball.
He was an all-star last year.
Yeah.
I know that. Didn't he start the all-star game, I think?
Don't know. Don't remember. I'm not good with who starts the all-star games.
It doesn't matter. No.
I don't think that'll ever be a thing that I have in the bag.
Michael Lorenzen's an all-star. Yeah, it doesn't matter.
I guess my point is
Jays should trade for him, by the way.
Do you think, because that's one of the theories is that he focused too much on the defense and that it bit away from the offense. I have a tough time with that stuff. I don't know.
Why?
I don't know. It just doesn't really make sense to me why a guy would just be working on his defense more and all of a sudden he can't hit.
I think that we focus too much on offense with like baseball players in general and on what their average is, what their on base is. I think you can contribute to
this is how the Blue Jays ended up being the crappy team they are. Is that everybody sat in a room and went, you know what? We're too worried about we got to get rid of Teoscar Hernandez's in the last month 950 OPS or whatever he had. Hey, Lourdes Gurriel Jr., remember that once in a while where he made a bad defensive play? Now the Blue Jays have the best defensive outfield. Like they do. Although Springer last night, bad. That was a bad boy. That was a bad boy moment for Springer, especially since he sat on the fence. It was like, dude, that was clearly in play.
Yeah, he thought it was foul.
Yeah, I know, which was bad.
Like 2 feet inside the line.
It wasn't close. Actually, when they showed the replay, I went, oh, that's even worse than I thought it was live.
Yeah.
Either way, great. They got this spectacular outfield defense, and guess what? They're sitting, 2 games of the wild card right now behind a bunch of teams that have not been, like the Yankees have been pretty mediocre, although now they're 10 games above 500. They've been hot lately.
Every team in the AL in that kind of murky middle has been extremely mediocre for like a month.
Yeah.
Which is, so you can look at that 2 ways. It's like good because the Jays are still in it. It's also bad because they lost, they did not take advantage of a really good opportunity to improve their standing. You got those Kirk numbers?
Yeah, I do. So he is under league average for catchers this season.
Oh, no.
His OPS is 651 and catching average .679
Oh,
this
close.
season.
but his defense on it. Oh, hey, look up his. He must be. There's probably like 10 articles written about how good Kirk is on defense and how he's just saving
Hey, he was
game
an
after
all-star
game.
starter last year.
I don't think I've ever seen Kirk.
I got that one.
Yeah, there you go.
Here's another stat. Have you ever seen Kirk throw someone out?
Yeah, yesterday.
Yeah, it's like,
Literally last
yeah,
night.
no, but like
Literally last night.
Have we ever seen that before yesterday? Like, has that ever happened?
Yeah, he's had some good throws lately.
Yeah.
In April, his arm strength was down, which is a little weird.
Yeah.
But lately, he's actually been pretty solid.
Either way, I think he's been a big problem on the team. There's been a lot of big problems on the team, and you can go through it. And it's been Vladdy's slumps, and it's been Chapman having, what's Chapman in the last couple months? 585 OPS, then 633 May and June. Woof. Those are some baddies. It's been, I think Varsho not turning out to be the bat that they expected him to be. It's pretty clear that they didn't trade for a guy who was supposed to be a, what was it again, 660 OPS, 668 OPS guy, that they thought there was going to end up being more, especially with the lefty power. It's been Manoah's injury, sure. But yeah, I have not really seen the what's up with Kirk stuff. He got hurt for a little while, so he was out of the mix. But now that he's back, I'm kind of going, all right, man, got to start to see the power, got to start to see some of the offense, because this isn't cutting it. And yeah, it's not bringing up what is that, Heineman?
Tyler Heineman.
Tyler Heineman. I don't think he's the answer. But I also think that, like, this is a thing where we're talking about where's the run production, this is a guy that's supposed to be later when a couple guys are on base, come through with a knock, score some runs.
You'd like to see more power from him, and you'd like to see him get back above that league average OPS for catchers. But there also are not a lot of teams in baseball built around their catcher being their offensive force and driving their offense.
Yeah, I don't think he's supposed to be that, like the main driving force. But again, there was a month or two last year where we were talking about this guy being special. There were broadcast after broadcast and podcast after podcast about, hey, what do we have here in terms of a catcher? What is this guy offensively? This is what makes him special. And that's completely gone away, and it's just, not talked about. Anyway, now I'm back in the circle thing again.